So now that we've looked at the syntax of a function, it's time to start talking about why would you use one method over another. So this first cell right here, we've typed in the number 55. If I ever want this number to change, I have to physically go into this cell and change it. So I would have to double click and then adjust the cell to like 56, for instance, and hit enter. It doesn't change with the cells above it, right? So it doesn't change with what I actually added, because I added A1 through A10 in my head and then type the answer here. So this is what we would call a hard number, where we type this in by hand, right? So I'm going to go ahead and change this back to 55. Okay. The next cell over, we typed in the numbers inside the equation. So again, if I were to want this to change, I would have to double click on this equation and change it to like the number 2, for instance, here, and then it would change to 56. But it's not going to change automatically. What I mean by automatically is I want you to go to cell A1, and you don't have to double click because we're going to replace it. And remember, you can click on a cell and then just type to replace it. And I'm going to type the number 100. When I type the number 100, I'm going to go ahead and hit the check mark to accept it. I'm going to copy this across through column D. So I want you to see if you can get it to copy across through column D real quick. So again, using that autofill function, I'm going to take this number over and I'm going to copy it across through column D. Now you can see when I do this that the hard number of 55 doesn't change. The typed equation of the cell values or of the numbers doesn't change either, because the 1 didn't change to 100 even though it did up here in cell B1. But the next two values, the ones where we reference cells like C1, it's going up to C1, it's grabbing the 100, it's bringing it down, and it's adjusting. In addition, when we reference D1 inside of our sum function, same thing. And you can also see that over here in column G, these values have also adjusted. So my question to you is, which is the most efficient method for you to utilize? Because the point of Excel is not that it's just a calculator, it's that it adjusts automatically for changed values. So should we be typing in numbers by hand if we are doing math with them? Like if we're adding all of these numbers together, should we be typing the answer in by hand? No, because if these numbers adjust, it doesn't adjust. Should we be typing the numbers into the equation by hand using the equal sign and the values if we know that those numbers could change? No. So these numbers up here are the same numbers. Why would we retype them? That's inefficient. Plus, they could change, right? Not what we needed. Now, if it's a number that's not going to change, like you're always going to want to divide by 2, you could type that into the equation and keep it there. But if it's a value that's on the spreadsheet and it could change in the long run, you should put it as a cell reference. So here we have our two methods. The first one was to do cell references and put in plus signs. That's okay, but not super efficient when we know that instead of doing that, we could actually do a sum function, because a sum function does the same things. So really, when you're talking about how could you create those functions or those equations, you need to think about what is the most efficient method. And I would highly, 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 highly suggest that if you can make a cell reference, if you can refer to a cell that has a number inside of it, you should do that so that as things move across and they adjust, you can change your equations automatically. You don't need to be updating things. That's the beauty of Excel. It updates automatically. So again, we want to use functions that utilize cell references, and we want to utilize functions that exist instead of putting in the operators ourselves manually if we don't have to. The last thing I want to show in this video is how can I see what these numbers are actually doing? How can I see what's a function and what's not? So I'd like you to pause the video here and see if you can figure out how to show functions inside of here without double clicking on a cell. So pause the video here and see if you can make that happen. Alrighty. So to do that, I'm going to go to the View tab. The Formulas tab. I'm going to go to the Formulas tab. And on the Formulas tab, you can see it has a lot more functions here than it did on the 365 version. And one of the things it has under formula auditing is the ability to show formulas. When I click Show Formulas, you can see that it will expand the cells, it'll make them wider, and it may cut things off, but they still exist. And I can see that I typed in 55, I put this equation here, and I use cell references here, and if I scroll across, I can see my other functions as well. And this is your formula view. The keyboard shortcut is the Control key, and then above the Tab key on your keyboard, there's a little squiggly line. That is called a tilde. And if I hold control and I click tilde, it will pop me back to normal view. And if I click it again, it'll put me into formula view. So I can pop between the two. And if you hold it down, it'll freak the screen out. There's that too. But I could pop between formula view and normal view on here. So now that we've looked at this, now it's time to make an actual like spreadsheet.